Another week, another Netflix action flick. This time it's the German movie Exterritorial. This has immersive action and some thrilling pursuits, but is that enough to make this watchable? When a soldier's son vanishes at a US consulate, she illegally remains on the premises to search for him, unknowingly entangling herself in a dangerous conspiracy. Now, right from the start, this feels like an earthbound remake of the Jodie Foster thriller Flight Plan. We got an ex-soldier named Sarah who goes to the US consulate in Germany to get her work visa so that she can travel to the US for a job. And while waiting for her appointment, her son goes missing. And after an exhaustive search, the boy doesn't seem to exist, bringing Sarah's frame of mind into question. Now, gaslighting is a heavy theme here, and while it is fairly heavy-handed in the execution, it is effective in creating the necessary doubt to make our heroine an unreliable narrator. We're shown flashbacks, current actions, and then provided with small amounts of info that work to make us question the mental stability of Sarah. Perhaps she really is having an episode and can't remember things correctly. Or maybe she's correct and something nefarious is going on. Jean Garceau plays Sarah, and she's believable in the role of a former soldier battling PTSD. You may recognize her from the Netflix series Barbarians, where she also put the hurt on attackers, savagely fighting with brutal attacks. Now here, she's pretty athletic, but not Wonder Woman. So while she can deliver fierce punches and also take a decent beating, there are moments when things don't go her way, and we get to watch those things go awry. Now, there are multiple scenes when I groaned just thanks to the painful stunts and actions that Sarah undergoes. We also watch her convincingly relive harrowing moments with her expressions and body language, just showcasing some of her deep trauma. I mean, the story doesn't overplay her PTSD, but it does receive enough development so that it makes sense and it supports the idea of an unreliable narrator. But that being said, you need to suspend just about all disbelief to make this movie plausible, or at least mildly convincing. As Sarah runs around the consulate searching for her son, the majority of the hallways are empty, allowing unhindered movement. Also, as is to be expected, there's a ton of security cameras, and yet she's somehow able to skirt through the majority of the compound unseen. Now, thankfully, at one point this is called out, so at least in portions of the story, the writing is aware that this is becoming noticeable and a potential issue with the story flow. There are also moments in which Sarah encounters ladders in strategic locations that conveniently allow her to ascend or descend some terrain that otherwise would be a complete obstacle. But what the film does really well is the action. There are multiple high-intensity fights and chases that create mesmerizing excitement. The camera work is fluid, and it follows a ton of the characters' movements so that it provides the illusion that we're in the fight with Sarah. There's also a thrilling one-shot that has the camera bouncing around the room as the actors deliver bone-crunching blows, body flips, and attacks with improvised weapons, all within a close-quarters environment. Now, unfortunately, during this, there are a few times we can see that the punches are pulled without landing. That's a bummer, because it does break the immersion for those moments. I mean, I appreciate that the one-shot isn't the only time the camera creates the following perspective, too. We see it in harrowing jumps and a bullet-riddled vehicle chase. And even if you're rolling your eyes a bit at some of the craziness that unfolds, it's still engaging and exciting to watch. Now, the story is more complex and slightly more convoluted than I expected it to be. A lot of this works to create misdirection and complications, but it also creates moments that feel as though the film has kind of lost the plot and is going in too many directions. There's a story arc with a woman Sarah meets within the consulate, and while in the long run, this storyline does tie in appropriately to the main arc, before we get there, it feels a lot like a distraction or an unnecessary tangent. With the complexity of some of the portions of the plot, elements become thin and underdeveloped, necessitating a large exposition dump at the end of the film that provides all the answers, but it's incredibly lazy. The dialogue is littered with flashbacks we've already seen to give a weak response as to motives and the impetus for all that's transpired. The story was so focused on the search and the chase aspect that the other side of the story was just left dangling in mystery jail until the plot could reach the point when the only option left was to have the villain lay everything out. And it's not like the villain isn't obvious from just about the start. Even with the possibility of Sarah imagining her son's presence at the consulate, the villain arc works as its own storyline and isn't obscured in any meaningful way. Plus, there is this weird turn within the writing and direction that makes it seem as though the story is attempting to make the baddie more sympathetic. I mean, it's ineffective, but it's also off-putting. Just keep the villain instead of trying to provide them rationale or reasoning that can then reduce the foulness of their actions. Because of some of those story elements that feel like tangents or take the plot in too many directions, the hour and 49-minute runtime does become noticeable. Even with the exciting action, there are enough down moments that unfortunately don't produce tension, instead only add time. Now, I don't think there's an overabundance of wasted minutes here, but the pacing does become uneven about halfway through. Now, if you're looking for a fun chase that incorporates doubt and reliability with the protagonist, and you enjoy some immersive fight sequences, Exterritorial is a decent escape from the world. Jean Gourceau is engaging and sympathetic, all while believably receiving and delivering some gnarly attacks. The situations are far-fetched, a ton of plot conveniences are introduced into the storytelling, the arcs get a little too convoluted for their own good, and the ending exposition dump is uninspired. And despite all that, I was still mostly entertained. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and a ton of violence. I give Exterritorial 2.5 out of 5 couches. So what movie are you most looking forward to seeing in the coming weeks? I'd love to hear what you're watching in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.